Henry?
Huh?
Your hair is bleeding.
Frank, is that your knee?
The real story of why actors left MASH, a war story told with heart. Picture American television without MASH. It's almost impossible, because the series didn't just top ratings, it redefined what a half-hour comedy could carry. Premiering in 1972 and set during the Korean War while Vietnam shadowed real life, the show fused gallows humor with aching humanity. Its offbeat surgeons and nurses wielded sarcasm and compassion as shields against chaos, turning absurdity into survival and grief into grace. Over time, the writing grew more serialized and emotionally layered, and creative tensions surfaced. Some actors chased bigger opportunities, others escaped burnout, some wanted fairer storytelling. The departures weren't just headlines, they reshaped the show's tone and deepened its moral core. The roots went back to 1968 with MASH, a novel about 3 Army doctors, a fiction by H. Richard Hornberger writing as Richard Hooker, sharp, irreverent, and humane. Robert Altman's 1970 film adaptation sharpened the satire and won the Palme d'Or and an Oscar for Best Screenplay. In 1972, CBS launched the series developed by Larry Gelbart and Gene Reynolds. It kept the wartime setting and prickly comedy, but leaned into character-driven stories with real emotional stakes. Alan Alda stepped into Hawkeye Pierce and gradually became the show's conscience, on screen and behind it. The first season wobbled. A move to Saturday nights sent ratings soaring. MASH experimented with tone and form, occasional newsreel textures, emotionally honest silences, and that helicopter thrum that felt more true than any laugh track. As Alda took on writing and directing, the series pursued realism and moral complexity. Not everyone felt their character was evolving with that vision, yet through every change, MASH held to a single core: show the cost of war through compassion, wit, and fiercely human bonds. McLean Stevenson. Ask longtime fans for the single most devastating moment, and many will name the quiet shock in the Season 3 finale. Abyssinia, Henry. Radar walks into the operating room, hat in hand, and delivers, Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake's plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan. There were no survivors, no music, no laugh, only stunned faces and the relentless noise of surgery. It was the first major departure of a core cast member, McLean Stevenson, and it redrew the boundaries of what a sitcom could do. Stevenson's Henry Blake had been there from the start, affable, overwhelmed, and deeply human. Where Hawkeye and Trapper broke rules and tension with jokes, Henry steadied the tone with kindness and confusion, a foil that made the madness feel navigable. He drew praise and a Golden Globe, but behind the scenes, frustration grew as the show increasingly centered on Hawkeye, especially as Alda's influence expanded. Stevenson didn't want vanity billing. He wanted to avoid being forever locked into second or third banana. In a town that typecasts quickly, he felt urgency to steer his trajectory. He chose to leave after Season 3. The creators faced a choice, a gentle transfer or a choice true to the series' heart. They chose truth. Abyssinia Henry gave him a buoyant send-off, hugs, jokes, hope, and then brutal honesty. Not everyone gets home. The cast's reactions were partly real. Only Gary Burghoff was told the ending so he could prepare. The episode sparked a torrent of letters, praise for its courage, anger at its cruelty. Larry Gelbart defended the choice. MASH had always been about the human cost beneath the laughs. Stevenson moved to NBC and headlined The McLean Stevenson Show, and later, Hello, Larry. Both fizzled. In time, he admitted, I took myself out of the game. MASH had been lightning in a bottle. Cast, chemistry, writing, and impact he wouldn't recapture. He kept working, beloved on sets and by fans, and when he passed in 1996 at 68, tributes remembered his warmth and generosity. The irony remains, leaving made the show's soul more visible. The role he walked away from became his most enduring. Wayne Rogers. If Stevenson's exit was thunderous, Wayne Rogers was a vanishing act. One episode he was there, the next he wasn't. No goodbye, no party, no closure. On screen, Trapper John McIntyre was Hawkeye's partner in crime, mischief, surgical genius, and a friendship that felt bulletproof. Off-screen, Rogers had joined expecting an ensemble. As the show evolved, Hawkeye became the center, as moral compass and emotional anchor. Rogers admired Alda and their rapport, but he felt Trapper shrinking into a nodder rather than a co-lead. He wanted growth, not stasis, an arc, not repetition. He decided not to continue after season 3. The twist, he had never signed a formal contract, working instead on a handshake, so legal threats couldn't hold him. The writers had to pivot fast. In the season 4 opener, they explained that Trapper had been discharged while Hawkeye was on leave. For viewers, the whiplash was real. First Henry, now Trapper, and the show recalibrated. Enter Mike Farrell as B.J. Hunnicutt, grounded, introspective, less rebellious than Trapper, and morally searching. The buddy edge softened, and the series deepened. The new dynamic allowed MASH to explore quieter complexity. What loyalty looks like when rules, duty, and conscience collide. Rogers didn't fade. He acted, then built a second life as a savvy investor and media commentator. He and Alda remained on good terms. When Rogers passed in 2015 at 82, Alda's remembrance was tender and wry, two friends who promised to keep giving each other a hard time for the rest of their lives. Gary Burghoff. On-screen, Radar O'Reilly was MASH's heartbeat, the wide-eyed clerk who sensed choppers before anyone else, tenderness wrapped in olive drab. Off-screen, Gary Burghoff was carrying pressures most viewers never saw: anxiety, depression, an unforgiving schedule, and a family he wanted to be present for. He was the only actor to reprise his role from the 1970 film, reshaping Radar from mischievous to innocent and turning him into a symbol of lost youth in wartime. By season 7, the grind took its toll. He asked for better balance, fair pay, more flexibility, and fewer appearances. The producers accommodated where they could, but the emotional cost remained. He chose to leave in season 8, and this time, the show made space for a proper goodbye. Goodbye, Radar is one of the series' most aching arcs. Radar returns to a fraying unit, tries to fix everything, then realizes his family and community need him more. He sets the camp back in motion, and in a quietly devastating gesture, leaves his teddy bear on Hawkeye's bunk. The final image, Radar walking away in near silence, felt like losing our own innocence. After MASH, Burghoff stepped back, tried the short-lived spin-off Walter, then turned toward painting, wildlife conservation, and inventing, holding several patents, including a fishing tackle system. He later said he left for 2 reasons: my family and burnout. In a series about resilience, his choice stands as its own kind of courage. Larry Linville. Early MASH needed a pressure valve, and Larry Linville provided it in Frank Burns, rigid, petty, and hilariously self-important. He was the antagonist audiences loved to hate, rule-bound, sycophantic, conducting a clandestine affair with Major Houlihan, always a step behind Hawkeye and Trapper. As the show matured, Frank didn't. While others grew, he looped. For an actor with real range, the constraint became stifling. By the end of season 5, Linville declined to renew, feeling he had taken Frank as far as possible. Writing him out off-screen with a promotion was tidy, and the change proved pivotal. Without a cartoon villain, MASH leaned harder into irony, humanity, and the gray zones of wartime ethics. Linville worked steadily afterward, but Frank remained his most visible role, testimony to how deftly he played a character designed to be outgrown. Ogden Stiers. If Frank was the sledgehammer, Charles Emerson Winchester III was the scalpel. Introduced in season 6, he was cultured, brilliant, arrogant, and guarded, less a villain than a challenge. David Ogden Stiers played him with elegance and restraint. Over time, the armor cracked. He wasn't cruel, he was proud. He wasn't heartless, he was private. And war humbled him, patient by patient. Stiers stayed until the finale, declining the spin-off because Winchester's arc felt complete. His final image, teaching Chinese POWs Mozart, is haunting, a statement that art survives even as the world tries to break it. Later, Stiers voiced beloved roles for Disney, and in 2009 came out publicly, saying he had previously feared professional consequences. He passed in 2018 at 75, remembered for range, dignity, and the quiet courage of living on his own terms. The women of MASH. In a sea of men deflecting darkness with jokes, the women had to fight simply to be seen. No one climbed higher than Major Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan, played by Loretta Sweet. Early on, she was written as a punchline, her nickname imported from the film, her discipline played for laughs. Sweet refused the caricature. Season by season, she built a woman of substance, intelligent, decorated, vulnerable, and formidable. Margaret evolved into a fully realized leader, the skilled head nurse who questioned the conflict's cruelty while doing her job with unflinching precision. Sweet stayed all 11 seasons, one of only 4 actors to appear in both pilot and finale. Her arc mirrored the show's maturation, pushing beyond gag and stereotype toward contradiction and truth. In a series that stripped everyone down to their essence, she stood tall, ensuring the story was never only the boys. What actors did we miss? Tell us in the comments below. Thanks for watching. To enjoy more exciting videos, click play on the next video on your screen. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified when a new video drops.